Peace negotiations fail, humans' reply terrifies the galaxy. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The smell of ionized metal still clung to the air inside the Alios Concord chamber, a vast rotating hall suspended above a gas giant streaked with red storms. Light panels flickered overhead, giving everything a cold, surgical sheen. Captain Elias Ward stood behind the Earth delegation's table, jaw tight, every heartbeat echoing in his ears like footsteps in an empty hangar. He wasn't a diplomat. He wasn't meant to be here. He was a rescue officer from a small Terran response unit, the kind of man sent to pull civilians from collapsed stations or burning habitats, not to stare down the High Council of 7 Worlds. And yet, here he was, wearing a stiff formal jacket instead of his reinforced exosuit, feeling more exposed than he ever had in any battlefield. Across from him, the Vorex ambassador slammed a fork-clawed hand onto the metal surface, sending a ripple of vibration across the chamber. Humans cannot be trusted, the creature snarled, its voice sharp enough to cut through the low hum of atmospheric processors. Your species expands without permission. You colonize without restraint. And today, you dare demand equal status in the Treaty of Alios. The gallery of alien delegates murmured, their scales, plated skin, or shimmering fur rustling like dry leaves caught in a storm. Elias felt their eyes, hundreds of them, heavy with the same old fear, humanity, the unpredictable newcomers from a death world. The Terran ambassador tried to respond, but the words tangled under the oppressive silence. Cameras hovered like metallic insects above the assembly, recording every breath, every twitch, every flicker of tension. Elias's hand brushed the polished badge pin to his chest. It felt absurd, he would rather grip a cutting torch or a med scanner. Earth, the counselor from the crystalline Othari said, her voice chiming like broken glass, must submit to supervision. Your species has demonstrated a pattern of emotional volatility and hazardous ingenuity. For stability, we propose placing Terran fleets under joint council oversight. The words hit harder than a plasma recoil. Supervision. Oversight. A polite way of saying leash. Elias's pulse picked up, hot and heavy. He remembered the people he'd pulled from wrecks, from collapsed corridors, from frozen mining outposts. He remembered how humans always reached out for one another, even when dying. And now these aliens wanted to chain that spirit. The ambassador beside him cleared his throat, voice trembling. Earth cannot agree to, then Earth will be contained, the Vorex interrupted. By force, if needed. The room froze. The chamber lights dimmed to warning amber. Elias felt the moment fracture, like a hull creaking under pressure. Every instinct honed from years of disaster response screamed inside him, something irreversible had just broken. The Terran delegation received a ping on their wrist slates, an encoded message from the Terran High Command. A single sentence. Elias read it, and the breath left his lungs. He didn't speak it aloud. He didn't need to. Earth's ambassador straightened, no tremble now, no hesitation. He simply lifted his chin and said 7 quiet words that made the entire chamber fall into a stunned, unnatural silence. The Terran Union replies, we decline. A wave of disbelief rippled through the aliens. The Vorex ambassador recoiled as if struck. The Othari counselor's luminous eyes dimmed. Every species present knew what that phrase meant in Terran culture. It did not mean surrender. It did not even mean defiance. It meant something far worse, humans were preparing for something. Something they never wanted to use. The galaxy suddenly remembered every rumor whispered about Earth's death world resilience, the species that evolved under gravity that cracked mountains, storms that shredded continents, predators that hunted in darkness. And the room realized, too late, that humans do not raise their voices when angered. They grow quiet. Elias stood there, heart steady now, cold as vacuum. For the first time all day, he finally felt like he was back in his element. A disaster was coming. But this time, the whole galaxy would feel the tremor. The chamber had not yet recovered from the shock of Earth's message when Captain Elias Ward followed the Terran delegation out through the curved titanium corridor. The air tasted different out here, thinner, tinged with ozone from anxious force fields stabilizing around the station. Every step echoed as if the metal beneath his boot sensed the tension and carried it forward. Elias said nothing. He kept his hands at his sides, shoulders locked, eyes scanning the shifting holographic panels that marked the exit routes for each species. He could feel dozens of alien gazes drilling into his back, studying him the way zoologists might study a predator in a cracked containment tank. Rumors were already spreading. Humans declined. That simple phrase moved faster than light across comlinks and encrypted channels, reaching listening posts in the outer rings before the delegates even left the hall. Elias saw the reactions in real time on the curved screens lining the corridor walls. News tickers in 7 languages. Speculation bursting like solar flares. Terrans refuse oversight. Human fleets on the move. Unpredictable Death World species triggers crisis. He hated the word Death World. But he could not deny the truth behind it. Humans grew up wrestling gravity, storms, and hostile ecosystems. They were not elegant. They were not graceful. They were stubborn creatures who survived where nothing else should. The Terran ambassador beside him swallowed hard as they approached the lift. "Captain," he whispered, voice shaking. High Command knew that phrase would terrify them. They knew exactly what they were doing. Elias kept walking. "Yes, sir." They did. The lift doors hissed open and sealed behind them, enclosing the group in a cylindrical chamber humming with vertical magnetic rails. Blue lights flickered as the lift shot downward, slicing through levels containing everything from diplomatic archives to xenobiology gardens. The ambassador wiped sweat from his brow. "We wanted peace." Elias watched the floors blur past. Peace only works when both sides want peace. When they reached their docking platform, the escort detail was already waiting. Several humans in compact combat armor formed a line, visors reflecting the amber emergency lights. The sight hit Elias harder than he expected. These were not soldiers on the offensive. These were evacuation personnel. And that meant one thing: Earth was bracing for retaliation. The squad leader approached, armor plates clicking softly. "Captain Ward. Orders from High Command. You are to return to the ship immediately. We are initiating Protocol Ringfall." Elias froze. Protocol Ringfall was not an attack order. It was far more frightening. It was a full-scale civilian withdrawal from all outer territories back toward Sol. A controlled retreat. A quiet tightening of lines. When humans retreated, it meant they were preparing for something unbearable. The ambassador looked at Elias, eyes wide with dread. If the council interprets this as mobilization, Elias finished the sentence for him. They will panic. And they did. Even from the docking platform, he heard the rising chorus of alien voices echoing through the concourse as news of the Terran movement hit public channels. Some shouted in fear. Some demanded preemptive strikes. Some whispered ancient proverbs about the species born under crushing gravity and chaos. Elias boarded the shuttle, feeling the vibration of its engines come alive beneath his boots. As the ramp closed, he looked through the narrowing gap at the swirling crowd of alien civilians pressed behind containment rails. Their eyes were wide. Their expressions varied, but one emotion connected them all. They were terrified of humanity. Not because humans attacked, but because humans withdrew in silence. The shuttle lifted, engines rumbling, and Elias stared out at the star-speckled void beyond the docking ring. He knew what came next. Panic. Misinterpretation. And a galaxy that had never truly understood humanity preparing for the worst. Elias exhaled slowly, watching the gas giant's red storm swirl beneath. "Let us hope," he whispered, "they understand before it is too late." The shuttle pierced through the upper layers of the station's traffic field, engines humming with a low, steady vibration that settled in Captain Elias Ward's ribs. Outside the viewport, the gas giant's violent red storms twisted like vast muscles beneath a translucent skin, each rotation throwing reflections of warning lights across the shuttle's interior. Elias watched the scene with the stillness of a man trained to see danger before it took shape. He could already feel the shift in the air as the pilot received updates through her comlink. Aliens were evacuating sections of the station. Others were demanding immediate military responses. Fear spread faster than fuel vapor in a plasma line. A message buzzed across the cabin monitor. Unscheduled diplomatic broadcasts detected across multiple species. Tensions rising. Potential escalation scenario. The ambassador in the seat across from Elias pressed a trembling hand to his forehead. He looked 10 years older than he had inside the chamber. "We wanted compromise," he muttered to himself, as if repeating it might rewrite reality. "We wanted cooperation." Elias answered without looking away from the storms below. The Council wanted control. The shuttle angled toward the Terran cruiser waiting in orbit. Its hull a dark spear against the shimmering glow of the planet. As they approached the docking clamps, the cruiser's beacon lights pulsed in a pattern he knew by heart. It was not a combat signal. It was not a distress signal. It was a consolidation signal. Humans pulling back. Humans preparing. Protocol ringfall spreading across the fleet like a silent command. Once aboard, the change in atmosphere was immediate. Terran personnel moved with controlled urgency through narrow steel corridors. Metal grated under boots. Tools clattered as engineers adjusted mass drivers and reinforced the shield grid. Not for attack. For protection. For retreat. The kind that made enemies nervous. Lieutenant Mara Delane approached Elias as he stepped into the command deck, her helmet tucked beneath her arm. Her freckles stood out sharply under the harsh overhead lights. "Sir," she said, "incoming transmissions from 3 different Allied colonies. They are requesting evacuation confirmation." "Tell them stand by," Elias replied. "And remind them that civilian transports take precedence over military assets." Mara hesitated. "Sir, there are reports that several alien factions are interpreting ringfall as a sign of preemptive war. Some are preparing strikes." Elias did not flinch. "They always misunderstand silence." Mara lowered her voice. "Fear makes people dangerous." He nodded. "And misunderstanding makes them desperate." The command deck lights flickered as long-range sensors updated. Icons representing ships from several species bloomed across the holographic star map. Too many. Too fast. The ambassador stepped onto the deck, eyes wide as he took in the developing chaos. "Captain Ward," he whispered, "this is unraveling faster than we can respond." Elias stepped to the viewport at the front of the deck. Beyond the reinforced glass, he saw the station growing smaller as the cruiser pulled away. In its place, new silhouettes emerged. Warships from distant systems. Gunmetal hulls shifting position. Long-range batteries powering up, their deep hum carrying through space like a rumble of distant thunder. The ambassador approached Elias's shoulder. "They truly believe we are preparing for war." "We are not," Elias said. "They know that," the ambassador insisted, voice rising. "They must know that." Elias turned his gaze from the void to the frightened man beside him. "They do not understand humans." He let that truth settle in the air for a long moment. Around them, the ship's crew listened while pretending not to. Elias continued, his voice low and steady. "They think we are like them. They think retreat is a trap. They think silence is a battle cry. They think caution is aggression." He looked back out at the stars, watching the first flashes of weapons charging ripple across alien hulls. "They see ghosts where there are none." A deep tremor rolled through the cruiser as the ship shifted to full power, engines preparing for long-range withdrawal. Mara called out from her console. "Captain, alien warships are locking scans on us." "Not weapons yet." but close. Elias rested a hand on the rail, grounding himself as another vibration hummed through the deck plating. His voice was soft but unbreakable. Hold position. Do not raise shields unless they fire first. Mara hesitated. Sir, if they misread our stance, they already have, Elias said. But if we blink first, the galaxy burns. Outside, the first fleets of the galaxy gathered like storm clouds along the horizon of stars. And inside, Elias Ward stood unwavering, a single human against an entire frightened universe. Alarms pulsed in muted amber along the command deck ceiling as the Terran cruiser drifted farther from the Alio station, its engines running quiet but hot, ready for sudden thrust if the galaxy made the wrong move. Captain Elias Ward stood at the front rail, watching alien warships assemble in the star field like metallic predators circling prey. Their hulls glimmered in fractured reflections of the gas giant storms. Elias could read their movements as clearly as the lines on his own palms. They were afraid. And fear made ships twitch. A sensor ping rippled across the deck. Lieutenant Mara Delane leaned over her console, her voice steady but tight. Captain, the Vorex battleship has initiated an active scan. High intensity. They are not hiding their suspicion. Elias responded without turning. Hold posture. Do not raise our shields. Mara exhaled through her teeth. They are going to think we are trying to look vulnerable on purpose. They are going to think whatever their fear tells them to think, Elias replied. The Terran ambassador stepped closer, his expression pale under the cold deck lights. Captain, perhaps we should open a channel. Clarify our withdrawal. Offer reassurances. Elias finally turned to meet his gaze. Reassurance from a species they do not understand will not ease their fear. The ambassador rubbed his hands together, swallowing hard. Then what will? Elias looked back out at the dark expanse, where gunmetal hulls drifted into formation. Time. And the hope that they do not shoot before they think. The star map flickered again. More icons appeared. Not warships this time, but heavy transports. Civilian ones. Human ones. They moved in quiet lines toward the inner systems, carrying families, researchers, miners, farmers. Every Terran ship not essential to defense was falling back. The galaxy saw that movement and trembled. To them, humans did not retreat. Not unless something catastrophic was coming. A proximity alert chimed in a sharp metallic tone. Mara stiffened. Captain, the Othari vessel is moving toward us. Energy signatures rising. They are charging weapons. A hush fell over the deck. The Terran crew froze, not with fear, but with discipline. Elias felt the tension grip his chest like a tightening harness. Range, he asked. 1,000 miles and closing, Mara answered. The ambassador paled further. If they see us as a threat, they will fire. Elias kept his eyes on the stars. Then we make sure they do not. He stepped toward the communications console. Open a broadband transmission. Full spectrum. Unencrypted. Mara blinked, shocked. Sir, unencrypted? They will intercept everything. They will read intentions that are not even in the message. Exactly, Elias said. Because we will show them nothing but honesty. She hesitated, then complied. A soft tone signaled the channel was open. Elias drew a breath, steady and rooted, his voice filling the cabin and spilling into the void. This is Captain Elias Ward of the Terran Union. We are initiating civilian withdrawal as a precautionary measure. We have no hostile intent. We will not fire first. We request space to evacuate our people safely. His words traveled into the dark, crossing the gulf to ships bristling with suspicion. For 10 long seconds, nothing happened. Then 20. 30. The only sound was the hum of the ship's engines and the low thrum of distant shields powering up across alien fleets. The ambassador's whisper cracked the silence. They are not responding. Mara murmured, Captain, Their weapons are still charging. Elias did not move. Hold the line. A deep vibration rolled through the cruiser as nearby warships tightened their formation. A flash of energy flickered across the flank of the Othari vessel, like lightning testing the edges of a storm. Elias felt a chill creep up his spine. If even one ship miscalculated, the entire sector would ignite in seconds. Mara's voice shook despite her discipline. "Sir, this is the closest we have ever been to triggering a multi-species war." Elias kept watching the dark. Fear and misunderstanding have always been more dangerous than any weapon. Another pulse rippled across the star map. More alien ships entering the zone. More charged cannons glittering like distant suns. The entire galaxy holding its breath. Elias's jaw locked. His voice was a quiet anchor in the storm. "We stand down. We do not blink. And we pray they see the difference between caution and aggression." Outside the viewport, the first spark of weapons fire began to gather along an alien hull, its glow rising like the beginning of a terrible dawn. The glow building along the alien hull sharpened into a spear of condensed energy, bright enough to cast long, trembling reflections across the Terran cruiser's viewport. The command deck fell into a rigid, breathless silence. Captain Elias Ward stood perfectly still at the forward rail, every muscle locked as if bracing against a physical impact. He knew exactly what one premature shot would do. A single spark in this tension-choked void could ignite half the sector in seconds. Lieutenant Mara Delane monitored her console, eyes wide, voice only a strained whisper. "Captain, the Othari cannon is reaching peak charge. If they fire at that range," Elias finished quietly, "there will be no time to maneuver." Behind him, the Terran ambassador gripped the back of a chair so tightly his knuckles turned bone white. "Can we send a second message?" he asked desperately. "Something stronger? Something more apologetic?" Elias did not take his eyes off the weapon forming beyond the glass. "If we send more messages now, they will assume we are stalling for reinforcements." Another ripple crossed the star map. More alien ships slid into firing formation. Vorex dreadnoughts. Chiran Sentinel frigates. Even the normally passive luminary carriers drifted into striking positions, their translucent wings folding like blades. The fear was spreading, bleeding through entire fleets. The Terran cruiser stood alone at the center of it. Mara swallowed hard. "Captain, the Vorex ship just armed its forward batteries. Multiple species are reacting to each other, not just to us." Elias felt that truth like a weight. The galaxy was not preparing to fire on Earth alone. They were preparing to fire on each other under the assumption that humans would move first. And that was worse. Much worse. A chime sounded on the communications panel, a signal so soft it almost vanished under the hum of the ship. Mara checked her display. "Captain, an incoming hail." The ambassador nearly sagged with relief. "Finally." "Which species?" Mara's jaw clenched. "None. It is anonymous. Uncoded." Elias raised a hand. "Put it through." The deck speakers crackled for a moment, then a voice came through, distorted and layered with static. It was unmistakably alien, but the tone carried something raw. "Exhaustion, maybe. Or desperation." "Terran vessel," the voice rasped, "we see your withdrawal. We see your fleets moving away from the border. If war was your intent, you would not be moving civilians first." Mara whispered, "They are figuring it out." The ambassador exhaled in relief, but Elias did not relax. "Not yet." The voice continued, stronger now. "Some among us fear you. Some among us fear ourselves. A spark will doom us all. We request clarity." Elias stepped toward the console. "This is Captain Elias Ward of the Terran Union. Our civilians are evacuating as a precaution. We do not seek conflict. We are holding fire. We will continue to hold fire unless attacked. Tell your fleets that." There was a pause. A long one. The kind of pause that decided the fate of entire civilizations. Then the alien voice responded, "I will send your message. But I cannot guarantee they will listen." The channel cut. Mara turned sharply. "Captain! The Othari cannon, look!" The blinding glow hovering along the alien hull flickered. Once. Twice. Like a heartbeat stumbling. Then the energy dispersed in a soft cascade, glowing embers dissolving into the star field. The weapon was powering down. Murmurs spread through the Terran command deck. A wave of cautious relief rippled across consoles. But Elias's expression remained tight. "Other ships?" he asked. Mara scanned. "Still armed. Still locked on us. But there is hesitation. Some of them are breaking formation. Others are holding position." The ambassador pressed a hand to his chest. "That message bought us time." Elias stared at the dark expanse. "Time is not enough. They are watching each other more than us." One ship twitches, and the galaxy burns. As if summoned by his words, a proximity alarm blared suddenly, sharp and urgent. Mara's voice rose. "Captain, we have an unscheduled warp signature entering the field. No identification, no transponder, no origin trace. It is dropping out of warp right between the fleets." The ambassador gasped. Who would jump into this crossfire? A burst of light tore open the space between the Terran cruiser and the alien armada. A massive silhouette emerged, shedding warp distortion like molten metal. Elias felt his breath catch for the first time since the negotiations collapsed. Not in fear, but in grim recognition. Mara whispered, "Captain, that is a Terran vessel. A heavy one. A classified one. The kind of ship the galaxy prayed humans would never deploy." The ambassador took a step back. "Dear God, what is High Command doing?" Elias stared at the colossal shape as it stabilized, its hull dark and silent, its presence alone enough to shift every alien fleet into a panic. His voice sank to a cold, quiet certainty. "That is not a weapon," he said. "That is a warning." And outside, the galaxy trembled. The colossal Terran vessel that tore out of warp hung in the void like a silent monolith, its angular hull reflecting the distant starlight in cold flashes. The alien fleet surrounding the sector reacted instantly, formations tightened, shields flared to life, and long-range weapons shifted with frantic recalibration. The entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath as the mysterious Terran ship stabilized between the armed factions. Captain Elias Ward stood rigid at the forward viewport of the Terran cruiser, his reflection caught against the dark glass. He knew this silhouette. Everyone in the Terran military knew it, even if most had never seen one outside restricted files. Leviathan class. A deep space evacuation dreadnought. An Ark built for one purpose, to save lives. Not to take them. But the rest of the galaxy did not know that. To them, it was a monster. Lieutenant Mara Delane broke the tense silence first, her voice soft but unmistakably shaken. "Captain, the alien fleets are reacting. Several are repositioning away from us. Others are preparing defensive formations against the Leviathan." The Terran ambassador moved closer, his breathing shallow. "This is an escalation. High Command promised they would not introduce strategic tier ships." Elias kept his eyes locked on the vessel outside. "The Leviathan is not a weapon, Ambassador." "It does not matter," the ambassador replied, his tone cracking. "Perception is reality when the galaxy is terrified." A series of alerts chimed across the command deck as alien ships began transmitting encrypted bursts among each other. Mara scanned quickly. Multiple species are broadcasting emergency warnings about the Terran Ark. They assume it is part of a coordinated offensive. Elias closed his eyes briefly. They see armor plating and mass tonnage, and they assume destruction. The ambassador whispered, because that is what they would have built it for. Outside the viewport, the Leviathan's dorsal lights ignited in a slow, sweeping arc pale blue. Soft. Warm. Not the harsh red of weapons priming. Elias knew exactly what it meant. They are opening civilian channels, he said. They are broadcasting evacuation instructions. Mara's eyes widened. To us. Elias shook his head. To everyone. A low hum resonated through the Terran cruiser as the Leviathan began transmitting a broad-spectrum signal. The deck screens flickered, then filled with text and diagrams. Emergency habitat maps. Shield coverage instructions. Resource distribution protocols. Alien relief procedures. It was a blueprint for saving lives on a galactic scale. Mara stared in disbelief. Sir, they are offering emergency protection to non-Terran ships. They are offering safe refuge to the same fleets that have weapons locked on us. Elias nodded. Leviathans only deploy when the priority is life, not conflict. High Command is sending the galaxy a message. The ambassador's voice trembled. What message? Elias replied, that humanity will not start a war. But humanity will be ready to save anyone caught in one. Before the ambassador could answer, the star map pulsed violently. Mara leaned over her console. Captain, several alien warships have misinterpreted the Leviathan signal. They believe the Ark is preparing to absorb their civilian transports during an invasion scenario. Elias felt a chill trace his spine. Absorb, Lieutenant? It is an Ark. It protects. They do not know that, Mara whispered. They think, she stopped. Elias finished the sentence. They think we are preparing to capture them. The ambassador's face drained of color. Some factions have issued immediate directives to fire if the Leviathan moves closer. Elias stepped forward, gripping the rail so tightly the metal groaned. If they attack that ship, they will trigger every defense protocol it has. And those defenses are automated. Mara gave a slow, terrified nod. Captain, we could lose entire fleets. The command deck vibrated as an alien vessel drifted forward, its cannons igniting with bright purple rings. One spark away from unleashing a weapon powerful enough to shear hulls in half. Elias's heartbeat thudded like a drum in his ears. A galaxy on the brink. One ship misunderstood. One wrong move. Lieutenant, he said, open a direct channel to the Othari flagship. Audio only. Mara's fingers flew across the controls. Channel open. Elias leaned in, his voice low, steady, unmistakably human. This is Captain Elias Ward of the Terran Union. The Leviathan-class vessel before you is not an attack platform. It is an Ark. It is designed to rescue. Its shields are defensive. Its engines are non-aggressive. Do not fire on it. If you attack a ship built to save your lives, you will start a war none of us can escape. Static filled the channel. A long pause followed. Then a voice broke through, thin and trembling. Othari. Terran, is this truth? Why deploy such a ship now? Elias answered. Because we fear the same thing you do. Another silence. But this one felt different. Warships shifted. Cannons dimmed. Engines cooled. The Leviathan remained still, a silent giant offering shelter instead of destruction. Elias exhaled slowly. Stand down, he whispered again. Please. And for the first time since peace negotiations had collapsed, the galaxy hesitated in a way that felt less like fear and more like understanding. The Othari voice faded into static, leaving the command deck wrapped in a fragile, trembling silence. Captain Elias Ward kept his hands braced on the rail, feeling every vibration that rolled through the cruiser's hull as the galaxy weighed its next breath. Outside the viewport, the Leviathan Ark remained motionless, its soft blue lights rippling like calm waves against the backdrop of a void ready to explode. Alien warships still held their firing lines, but the tension in their formations had shifted, angles softened, shields lowered by fractions, engines drifted instead of lunged. It was not peace. It was not even trust. But it was hesitation. And hesitation meant hope. Lieutenant Mara Delane checked her readings with renewed intensity. Captain, weapon charge signatures across the sector have decreased by 15%. Several ships are powering down secondary batteries. The ambassador sagged into a nearby chair, exhaling shakily. Maybe they understand now. Maybe they actually believe us. Elias did not look away from the stars. Belief is fragile. Fear is not. The star map pulsed again, this time with a cluster of signals on the far side of the sector. Mara leaned forward. Captain, civilian vessels detected. Non-Terran. Multiple species. They are escaping the Alios station. They are fleeing the potential crossfire. Elias felt the weight inside his chest tighten. How many? Hundreds, Mara replied. Families. Medical ships. Supply barges. They are heading directly toward the neutral corridor between the fleets. Elias closed his eyes for a moment. Of course they are. The safest place is the center. The eye of the storm. The ambassador stared at the display. But the neutral corridor is collapsing. If those ships drift into a miscalculation, they will be torn apart between warring factions. A low hum began to build throughout the cruiser as more alien vessels adjusted their positions, shifting just enough to unsettle the delicate equilibrium forming. Mara tapped her console again, her voice sharpening. Captain, the Chiran Sentinel frigates are repositioning toward the refugees. Their targeting arrays are hot. They might think the civilians are being used as cover for a human maneuver. The ambassador choked out, they think we would hide behind civilians. Elias answered, fear makes every shadow a threat. The refugees continued their slow, vulnerable drift through the dark. Small lights blinking on their hulls, forming a pattern that reminded Elias of fireflies back on Earth fluttering through dusk. Unarmed. Defenseless. Hopeful. Mara's voice cracked. Captain, one wrong move by any fleet, and those civilians will be caught in the first exchange. Elias straightened. The slow, controlled breath he took centered his entire being. Open a channel to the Leviathan. Mara obeyed. A soft chime indicated the Ark was listening. Elias spoke clearly. Leviathan Command, this is Captain Ward. Civilians inbound to your sector. They are vulnerable. You are the only vessel large enough to shield them. Request immediate deployment of defensive barriers. Provide safe passage. Static. Then a calm, deep voice answered. Confirmed, Captain Ward. Initiating Sanctuary Protocol. Outside the viewport, the Leviathan stirred for the first time. Its dorsal lights brightened to a brilliant white, then expanded outward in concentric rings. A luminous barrier blossomed around the Ark, forming a massive protective shield like a second skin of starlight. Mara whispered, they are turning the Ark into an umbrella. In the distance, the refugees altered course, drawn like gravity toward the protective beacon. Alien fleets tensed instantly. Positioning changed. Lines tightened. Fear flared. A dozen ships activated weapons at once, misreading the Ark's movement. The ambassador lurched to his feet. They think we are pulling civilians to use as leverage. Ethan slammed a hand onto the comms panel. Channel open. Open. Mara shouted. Elias lowered his voice to something steady enough to cut through panic itself. All fleets, this is Captain Elias Ward of the Terran Union. The Leviathan is moving to protect civilians of all species. It will not engage. It will not attack. Sanctuary Protocol is defensive only. Stand down. Do not fire. I repeat, do not fire. His words echoed through the deck. Through the speakers. Through the void. One by one, alien ships began transmitting confused replies, arguing among themselves, trying to interpret what they were seeing. And then the first civilian ship reached the Leviathan's barrier. The glowing shield enveloped it, shimmering softly, causing no harm. Then another. And another. Families from worlds humanity had never visited drifted under Terran protection. Mara stared in awe. "They are trusting us," she whispered. Elias did not smile. "Not yet. They are trusting survival," he said quietly. "And survival is a language we all speak." Outside, the Leviathan expanded its shield again, stretching its reach like a guardian spreading its arms. More civilians entered. More lives saved. Across the galaxy's edge, warships watched in stunned silence as the species they feared most revealed not hunger for conquest, but instinct for protection. Elias rested his hands on the rail, his voice a soft murmur only those closest could hear. If they understand this moment, if they truly see it, everything could change. The ambassador looked at him. And if they do not? Elias's eye stayed on the Leviathan's glowing embrace. Then the galaxy will learn what humans fight for by watching what humans save. The Leviathan's expanding shield washed the sector in a soft white glow, scattering gentle reflections across the hulls of every warship poised to fire. It was a strange, almost sacred sight, a single Terran Ark sheltering civilians from species that had spent generations whispering warnings about humanity. Captain Elias Ward stood unmoving at the command rail of the Terran cruiser, watching the halo widen like a protective horizon. The command deck lights flickered as sensor data spiked. Lieutenant Mara Delane monitored the influx with tense precision. "Captain, civilian vessels have increased to over 300. Lifeboats, medical barges, diplomatic shuttles. Some are damaged. Shield integrity on the Leviathan is holding, but they will be at capacity soon." The ambassador wiped sweat from his brow, unable to tear his gaze from the viewport. "They are putting themselves under Terran protection. Voluntarily." Elias nodded slowly. "Because fear is universal. And so is the instinct to survive." The star map pulsed again, this time painting the sector with troubling new signatures. Mara leaned closer. "Captain, the Chiran Sentinel frigates are moving. Not toward us, but toward the Leviathan. They are attempting to intercept the refugee line." The ambassador stiffened. "Are they trying to cut civilians off?" Mara hesitated. "I am not sure. Their broadcast is fragmented. It sounds like accusation." A burst of alien chatter erupted from the long-range receivers. Mara isolated one channel, her voice tightening as she translated. "They believe the Leviathan is selectively offering sanctuary to manipulate power. They think humanity wants to host civilians to gain leverage in negotiations." Elias's jaw tightened. "So they fear the one ship trying to save them." Outside, the Chiran frigates adjusted their vector again, engines glowing bright blue as they accelerated. Not in an attack pattern, but definitely in a confrontation arc. Mara spoke with increasing urgency. "Captain, the Chiran warships are demanding the Leviathan lower its shield for inspection. They are threatened by anything they cannot see inside." The ambassador sputtered. "Inspection? During an evacuation? That is absurd." Elias's voice remained calm. "It is not absurd to them. They think we are hiding something." The envoy pressed a hand to his chest. "Are we?" Elias looked at him steadily. "Only frightened civilians." Before the ambassador could respond, a new alert pulsed through the deck. Mara's breath caught. "Captain, I am reading weapons charging on Chiran Frigate 13. The deck went silent. Elias felt the atmosphere pressure shift in his ears as adrenaline thinned the air. "Target?" he asked. Mara swallowed. "The Leviathan, Captain." The ambassador staggered back. "If they fire on an Ark, every automated defense protocol will activate. That will ignite the entire sector." Elias nodded. "Yes. And the Chirans know it. They believe that if they provoke a reaction, they can frame the Terrans as aggressors." The ambassador whispered, "A trap." Elias answered, "A desperate one." Mara suddenly straightened at her console. "Captain, the Leviathan is responding. They have opened a transmission to the Chiran frigates." The deck speakers crackled, carrying a low, solemn voice across the cruiser. Chiron vessels, this is Leviathan Command. Stand down. We are protecting civilians of all species. You are approaching in a trajectory that endangers them. Hold position. Instead of obeying, the Chiron frigate surged forward. Its cannons glowed. Bright. Pulsing. Ready. Mara's voice broke. Captain, it is going to fire. Elias set his jaw. Open a direct channel. No encryption. Broadcast to the whole sector. Mara tapped rapidly. Channel open. Elias stepped close to the panel, his voice a low, unshakable anchor. Chiron Frigate 13, this is Captain Elias Ward of the Terran Union. You are aiming a weapon at a sanctuary vessel carrying families and medical transports. If you fire, you will be the cause of whatever follows. The Leviathan will defend itself. Every race here will misinterpret your action. You will begin a war your people cannot survive. I am asking you, as a fellow being who understands the weight of life, stand down. Silence. A long, suffocating silence. Every heartbeat on the command deck fell into the same fearful rhythm. Mara trembled as she whispered, weapon charge stable, not rising, but not lowering. And then, without warning, a child's voice crackled across the channel. Faint. Frightened. Please, someone, help, they are boarding us. Mara's eyes widened. Captain, that transmission came from one of the civilian ships. They are being seized. Elias felt his stomach drop. Not from fear, but from the cold certainty that the galaxy was about to snap. Outside, the refugees scattered in panic. The Leviathan shifted its shield. Alien fleet surged in confusion. And for the first time, Elias felt a chill that no armor could block. This was no longer about isolation, evacuation, or misunderstanding. Someone out there was taking advantage of the chaos. Someone wanted the spark. And the spark had just screamed for help. The child's terrified plea hung in the air like an exposed wire, sparking through the command deck and freezing every Terran on the spot. Captain Elias Ward felt the blood drain from his face as dozens of red indicators flashed across the star map. One of the refugee ships, a small medical shuttle barely holding structural integrity, had been intercepted by an unknown vessel. Not Chiron. Not Othari. Not any of the primary fleets in the standoff. Mara Delane's voice shook as she read the incoming data. Captain, the boarding signatures are masked. They are using scramblers. I cannot identify the species. The ambassador clutched the back of a chair. Someone is exploiting the chaos. Someone wants the sector to ignite, no matter the cost. Elias steadied himself. The gravity in the room seemed to thicken as the weight of the moment pressed down on him. Locate the source of the child's transmission. Mara's fingers raced across the controls. Tracking, the signal came from Refugee Vessel 7, moving on a collision vector between the Chiron frigates and the Leviathan's shield. Elias's jaw tightened. They positioned themselves where the first shot is most likely. Mara nodded grimly. If anything happens there, both sides will blame the other. The ambassador whispered, a manufactured casus belli. The boarding alarm on the star map pulsed faster. Elias felt something cold settle inside his chest, but it was not fear. It was resolve. Open a direct line to the Leviathan. Mara signaled. The channel opened with a deep hum. The Leviathan command responded instantly. Ward, we are monitoring. Sanctuary protocol is locking onto the distressed vessel. Elias spoke firmly. We need a tactical extraction. Quiet and fast. There was a pause. Then the Leviathan's voice returned. Approved. We will deploy the Seraph units. The ambassador blinked in shock. Seraph? You mean the rescue drones? Elias corrected softly. Not drones. Piloted rescue exosuits. Outside, the Leviathan shifted. Panels along its flank unfolded like layers of armor peeling away. From within emerged 6 humanoid shapes, sleek and tall, their armor glowing with soft white light. Seraph units. Not soldiers. Rescuers. Each one capable of crossing battlefield distances in seconds. Mara whispered, "Elias, if the alien fleets see those units moving, they might assume an attack." Elias answered, "Then make them understand before they do." He stepped toward the comm panel. His voice dropped into something even, steady, unmistakably human. "All fleets, this is Captain Elias Ward. We are deploying rescue units to recover civilians under attack. They are unarmed. They are on a humanitarian mission only. Do not engage them." The message burst across every open channel in the sector. For a moment, the warships listened. Not because they trusted humans, but because they could hear the unmistakable sincerity in the Terran captain's voice. Outside, the Seraph units accelerated, streaking across the void with controlled, graceful arcs. Fans of stabilizing plasma trailed behind them like wings. Mara tracked them breathlessly. Seraph units approaching the boarded vessel. Life signs detected inside. Multiple hostile signatures. Elias lowered his voice. "Tell them to breach." The Seraph units reached the medical shuttle in seconds. Their white armor flickered in the reflection of emergency lights as they cut through the hull with precision tools. Through the deck speakers, faint audio streamed from the rescue team, frightened sobbing, the hiss of cutting torches, the thud of boots hitting metal. Then a voice from a Seraph unit came through. "We have the child." Multiple civilians extracted. Hostiles retreating. Extraction complete. Relief rippled through the command deck. But it lasted only seconds. Mara tensed. "Captain, movement." Multiple warships recalculating trajectories. Elias braced. "Which fleet?" Mara's eyes darted. "All of them." The entire sector seemed to sway as warships subtly repositioned, confusion rippling across alien armadas. But instead of moving toward attack, they shifted around the Leviathan in a wide formation, giving the Ark the space it needed as the rescued civilians were transferred into the protective shield. The ambassador stared in disbelief. They are clearing a path." Mara scanned updates. "Captain, messages coming in. Not hostile. Not aggressive. Just acknowledgement." A soft silence settled across the cruiser's command deck as alien warships dimmed their weapons, one by one. Elias stepped closer to the viewport. For the first time since the negotiations collapsed, he saw something new in the galaxy's posture. Not fear. Not anger. Understanding. Not complete. Not certain. But real. The Leviathan extended its shield fully, creating a vast sanctuary bubble that encompassed hundreds of civilians. Around it, fleets from 16 species hovered in a fragile, luminous ring. Mara whispered, "They watched us risk everything to save children that were not ours." Elias nodded. "Sometimes, that is the only language that breaks fear." The ambassador lowered his head. "Captain, what do we tell High Command?" Elias kept his eyes on the galaxy before him, his voice quiet, steady, and deeply human. "Tell them the peace negotiations did not fail. They just changed form." Outside, the Leviathan shone like a star reborn, its shield embracing lives from worlds that had never trusted each other. And in that silent glow, the galaxy witnessed something stronger than any weapon. Humanity choosing to save, not conquer.